Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast review video. Today on pre-order is the next book in the Psychic Awakening series, Faith and Fury, Black Templars, Chaos Space Marines. Let's begin.
The Dark King.
So we're here with Faith and Fury, a quick review. Today it goes up on pre-order by Games Workshop, so make sure you head on out to your local game store and stuff and make that order. Thank you, Games Workshop, for sending the book. I cannot wait to dive in and give it my own perspective. As you might know, I play Black Templars, and that was my original army before I dove into the denizens of the Dark City. So this is a treat for me. Ever since the Armageddon Codex, Armageddon Campaign Codex, I've been a very avid Black Templar fan. So this book takes us into the Toledus system, or Toledus system, or however you want to pronounce it. If you want to leave a comment down below, let me know. But it is a system in the Segmentus Solar. I'm not going to dive too deep into the lore of the conflict. Needless to say, this gives Games Workshop the opportunity to dive in to the heretic Astartes and the forces of the Black Templars as the Psychic Awakening and the Cicatrix Maledictum engulf the entire galaxy. So, I'll quickly skim through a couple of things. It gives you a really cool... The narrative is really fun. Lots of cool little side graphics and things like that. As always, an updated galactic map, which is always really fun. I love galactic maps. It also tells you the forces of the theater of war. You know, the Black Templars have sent a Gladius strike force, but you also have White Scars and Salamanders and other chapters sending forces in as well. There are a couple of missions. So you have Theater of War, the Warp Tear Theater of War. If you like adding cool environmental aspects to your game, this really helps add that sort of environmental aspects as well. 2 Echoes of War missions, which are very thematic narrative missions. The Underground Incursion and the Stand at Saints Wall, complete with their attacker and defender stratagems, which always provide for a fantastic and fun place of war. Now, there are some new rules for all of the Adeptus Astartes in this, and the Black Templars, and then the Chaos forces as well. So let's dive in to the Adeptus Astartes rules and things that affect Adeptus Astartes proper. The Adeptus Astartes will benefit from Masters of the Chapter in this book, new chapter litanies, where your chaplains have specific litanies of faith for White Scars, Iron Hands, Imperial Fists, Ultramarine Salamanders, and the Raven Guard. So cool chapter-specific prayers, which are really cool. A Master of Sanctity, Masters of the Forge, which are like HQ cool Masters of Forge, Chief Librarians, Chief Apothecaries as well, Chapter Ancients, Chapter Champions, and that's that. Now, each of these adds a lot of flavor to each of these individual characters, and we all know Space Marines is all about the heroes and about individual heroics, and it's really cool to take these generic characters in a Space Marine army and have the ability to give them a lot of flavor, which is really cool. So each of these has a special stratagem you can use to make one of your chaplains a Master of Sanctity, or one of your Tech Marines a Master of the Forge. So a stratagem to basically give them access to cool things like this, gives them access to a new set of Warlord Traits, and gives them access to a couple of relics. So each one of these has specific Warlord Traits for those models, has specific relics for those models as well, and that really adds a lot. There are some really cool ones, and I'm going to highlight some of them as well. Let's start with some of the chapter litanies. Some of the cool ones here is a chaplain, including named characters, so including named characters and Space Marine detachment other than a super auxiliary detachment, can know litanies from their respective chapter. This is in addition to any others they know. So as long as every unit in that detachment is drawn from the same chapter, your chaplain gets this thing, which is really cool. So not only do they know Litany of Hate for reroll hits, they know their chapter litany, and they know an additional litany, which is pretty snazzy. So, a couple of cool ones. White Scars, very close combat oriented. If this litany is inspiring, all attacks made with melee weapons by models in friendly White Scars units within 6 inches of this model can reroll wound rolls. Did you need a close combat Gulliman for your White Scars? Now you have one in the form of a chaplain, which can be pretty fun. Imperial Fists. If this litany is inspiring when resolving Overwatch made by any friendly Imperial Fist units within 6 inches of this model, hits of 5 or 6 score hit. Did you need your Centurion Devastators to Overwatch like Tau? Now they can with this really cool Imperial Fists Chaplain Litany. Salamanders. This litany is inspiring. Friendly Salamanders units within 6 inches of this model can perform heroic interventions as if they were characters. Annoyed at people doing close combat shenanigans to trap your units in close combat? Well then, this one is for you, being able to stop people's movement and things like that, being able to heroically intervene while the chaplain is around. And that's everybody. Dreadnoughts, Land Raiders. That's pretty cool. Iron Hands, the boogeyman of 40k at the moment. If this litany is inspiring, it's Medusan Furor, or Furor, like fire, I'm assuming. Add 1 to the strength characteristic of models in Iron Hands units within 6 inches of this model. Ultramarines. When an advance or charge roll is made for friendly Ultramarine units within 6, reroll any or all dice rolls of 1. Okay, it's not as powerful. Raven Guard. Select 1 friendly unit within 6. That unit can shoot when it fell back in that turn. And if it can fly, it can charge. Cool. So it's just like a cool psychic power that can't be stopped. Or a stratagem that doesn't require stratagem points. My favorite is, of course, the White Scars one. I think that's very, very powerful. And the Imperial Fist one as well. So that is your new Chaplain order. Okay, so let's dive in to the Master of Sanctity, the first of the really cool rules. So they are High Chaplains of the Space Marine chapters. You can spend 1 command point to select a Chaplain model that's not a named character, and until the end of the battle, gains the Master of Sanctity keyword, so it knows an additional litany from the Litanies of Battle. It can recite an additional litany at the start of the battle round, and you can only use a stratagem once per battle, and you cannot have 2 Masters of Sanctity from the same chapter. So you could have, you can only use a stratagem once per battle. Cool, so one of your chaplains can be an Uber chaplain, like Chaplain Cassius, or Chaplain Grimaldus of the Black Templar, the Dark Templar. Well, all joking aside, if you select a Master of Sanctity to be your Warlord, they can pick from 2 Warlord traits. Wise Orator. When you roll to determine if a litany is recited, you can re-roll the dice, so it gives him re-roll litany rolls, which is very cool. Bellowing Firebrand. Add 3 inches to the range of any litanies recited. So if it has an Aura litany, that's 9 inches, essentially, or extra inches. That's pretty cool. And then you have 2 relics of the Reclusium. You can give one of the relics to a Master of Sanctity instead of giving them a chapter relic. So if you want to forego the Slaplin with his mega super Crozius Arcanum, you can give him a Sacrosanct Rosarius, which gives him a 3+ invulnerable save. So a Chaplain with a Storm Shield. That's pretty cool. The Emperor's Judgment. When resolving an attack made against a model with this relic, your opponent cannot reroll hits, your opponent cannot reroll wounds, your opponent cannot reroll damage. In addition, enemy units within 6 inches that take morale roll 2 dice and discard the lowest. That seems kind of cool. Means that you can't reroll anything, so he's kind of lucky in that sense. Neat. I like the 3-up invulnerable save one, and I really, really like the rerolls to the litany rolls. Those are probably my favorite. Let's continue with the Masters of the Forge. They are chief artificers of Space Marine chapters. The stratagem is the same. One command point. You can pick one Tech Marine that is not a Tech Marine gunner. So you cannot pick a Tech Marine gunner to be a Master of the Forge. When a model repairs with the Blessing of the Omnissiah, you regain up to 3 lost wounds. Essentially, you can regain 3 wounds by fixing instantly, which is pretty cool. And it has 2 Warlord Traits. Master of the Machine. When an attack is made by a friendly vehicle model within 6 inches, you add 1 to the hit roll, so +1 to hit to all vehicles within 6. Very strong. A Warden of the Ancients. Add 1 to strengths and attacks of friendly dreadnoughts whilst they're within 6 inches of this warlord. That can be kind of cool, making your dreadnoughts have more attacks. Neat. I like the Master of the Machine though. +1 to hit for your vehicles is going to be incredible, especially for repulsors. It's a 6-inch bubble as well. Or even Invictor tactical war suits even. Relics of the Forge. Mortis Machina or Machina. A power axe replaces, so it's a weapon. Melee with +3 strength, AP -3 D3 damage. When attacking a vehicle, if the saving throw is failed, the unit suffers a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. So, if you fail your saving throw, you take mortal wounds in addition to damage. Okay, not bad. Not as cool. The Endurant Protector. Add 1 to the toughness characteristics of a model with this relic, and give them a 4+ invulnerable save. Always wanted to have a cool Tech Marine that go around beating stuff up with a 4+ invulnerable save. This guy can. Then we have the Chief Librarians, who are the Masters of Space Marine Chapters Librarius. Same sort of stratagem, except when they're a Chief Librarian, they can know 1 additional psychic power from their chosen discipline and can attempt to deny 1 additional psychic power. So they basically know another power. They can attempt to deny an additional psychic power. So instead of just denying 1, casting 2, they can deny 2, cast 2, and know an additional power. Cool. Warlord Traits. Psychic Mastery. When a psychic test is taken, add 1 to the total for the first time that phase. So +1 to cast on their first power. Pretty cool. High Scholar of the Librarius. Can generate powers from any discipline they know powers from. That is incredibly powerful for a librarian, allowing you as a commander to pick and choose the powers that best suit your force from any psychic tree that they have access to. That's very, very cool. You have a White Scar librarian. You can take the no Overwatch psychic power and 1 from the other one that makes them, I don't know, better at something, or null zone or something like that. Cool. Then you have 2 relics. A weapon relic, which replaces the Force Sword. Vinculum Vitae. It's a +1 strength, -3 AP, D3 damage sword. When resolving an attack made with this weapon, an unmodified wound roll of a 6 inflicts D3 mortal wounds on the target instead of any other damage. So it can get through invulnerable saves and stuff. It's kind of neat. And then the Neural Shroud. Add 12 inches to the range of a model's Psychic Hood ability. Cool. So Psychic Hood plus 12 inches range. That's pretty neat with the Neural Shroud. And then we jump in to the Chief Apothecary, who has the same sort of stratagem, as we know, just one after another. And Chief Apothecaries, when they provide medical attention, they can reroll the dice to determine if a destroyed model is returned to the unit. So you get to reroll to see if they come back. That's pretty cool. They do have Warlord Traits for them. Father of the Future. When a model in an infantry chapter unit or biker unit would lose a wound while within 6 inches of this warlord, on a 6, the wound is not lost. If that unit has the Flesh is Weak chapter tactic, aka Iron Hands, that wound is not lost on a 5+ instead. So it has a 6-inch Feel No Pain bonus of 6+, 6-inch Feel No Pain bonus of 5+ for Iron Hands, and it's for any unit within 6 inches. Oh, that's really powerful. I don't know about you, but that just stood out at me. Because remember, Iron Hands have a stratagem to make that a 4+ as well, or like +1 to that roll, which is crazy cool. Selfless Healer. Warlord can provide medical attention to 2 units instead of 1, and a unit that was provided medical attention can be provided with medical attention for a second time in a turn by this Warlord. So you can heal 2 models instead of 1. It can do so even if it's recovering the gene seed of a fallen warrior. So if you fail the first roll, you can succeed on the second roll. However, you do get a reroll because you're a chief librarian. Relics of the Apothecarium. You have the Acquittal. It's a bolt pistol or absolver bolt pistol. It has a 16-inch range. It's strength 5, 8 pistol 1, -3, damage 1. When resolving an attack made against a unit that is not a vehicle or monster, this weapon has a damage characteristic of D6. It's just like a 16-inch melter gun against anything that's not a vehicle or monster, aka to kill characters, which is kind of cool. And then the Healer Aegis. Friendly chapter infantry models have a 5+ invulnerable save while they're within 1 inch of a model with this relic. So this is definitely not as powerful. It's a 5+ invul save for models within 1 inch of a model with this relic. So it gives it to himself and anybody who wants to huddle around him, which could be kind of cool if you want to, run him around some centurions or something like that. Makes them quite. Then we have 2 more, the Chapter Ancient and the Chapter Champion. The Chapter Ancient is the most distinguished Space Marine in the chapter, essentially. They get to take the chapter's standard into war. Same stratagem, as always, makes them a Chapter Ancient. Friendly units benefit from the banner ability within 9 inches instead of 6, so it increases the range by 3 inches, which is kind of cool, makes the banner bigger, I guess. Has 2 Warlord Traits, Singular Presence, Friendly Infantry, Biker, or Chapter Dreadnoughts. Within 3 inches of this Warlord can perform heroic interventions as if they were characters. So that's kind of cool. It's like the Chapter Litany that we saw earlier. Steadfast Example. This Warlord, friendly Chapter Infantry units have the Defenders of Humanity rule whilst they're within 3 inches of this Warlord. If they already have this ability, each model counts as 1 additional model when determining control of an objective marker, which means you can give objective secured to non-objective secured infantry like Terminators, Aggressors, Centurions, and if they already have it, they count as double the amount of models, making them incredibly good at taking objectives away from the enemy. The 2 relics are banners of the chapter. The first, the Standard of Righteous Hatred. Hatred to all things that are not Space Marines. Standard of Righteous Hatred, models that shoot or attack as a result of the banner ability, attack as if they had a ballistic skill and weapon skill of 2+. So when they die, if you get to shoot with them or attack with them, they hit on 2+. That's pretty cool. Pennant of the Fallen, models that attack with 1 of their melee weapons as a result of this model's banner ability can make 2 attacks instead of 1. Okay, so if you're in close combat and someone dies, you can attack twice instead of just doing 1 attack. And last but not least, we have the Chapter Champion. The Chapter Champion's honorific is bestowed upon Space Marine Chapter's mightiest warriors of their martial masters. So, chapter. By the way, Black Templars do not get to use this because they have the Emperor's Champion. That's a lot better than one of these guys. Just saying. Chapter Champions get the Skillful Parry ability. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon, subtract 1 from the hit roll when attacking this model, essentially. So they get -1 to be hit in close combat because they're parrying. The Emperor's Champion gets this roll too. Just saying. They do have 2 Warlord traits. If it's your Warlord, you get the Master Duelist. When resolving an attack made by a melee weapon by a model against this Warlord, on a hit roll of a 1, they take a mortal wound on a 4+. If it's after that unit has finished shooting or fighting. Interesting. It says, yeah. it says melee weapon, so I'm assuming it's only shooting, even though here it says shooting or fighting. So Master Duelist can like riposte. If you roll a 1 to hit him, he's gonna, remember, it's -1 to be hit, so 1s and 2s on 4+, he's like stabbing you in the knee and stuff. Then we have a Martial Exemplar. When a charge roll is made for friendly chapter units within 6 inches, you can re-roll the roll. So anyone within 6 can re-roll charge rolls. That could be kind of cool. Stops you from having to use command points / other things, which is neat. 2 relics of the chapter. The Blade of Triumph is a model with a mastercrafted power sword. Replaces it. It is a melee sword at +2 strength, -4 AP, 3 straight damage. It is a Thunderhammer that is only +2 strengths. A Thunderhammer, okay? Awesome. And the Angel Artifice, a model with this relic, has a save of 2+ and a 4+ invulnerable save. Aren't content with your little shield save thingy? Give him a 2+ and a 4+. That's kind of cool. And that is a chapter champion, which gives us all an insight into how we can make some of our favorite Astartes characters into even more pivotal parts of our battle plan. And now we dive into probably my favorite of all the topics in this book, the Black Templars. Oh yes, baby. Zeal, fury, faith, honor. You know, when I was a young lad and I used to play, I used to get down on one knee before every battle, look my opponent in the eye with the sign of the Aquila on my chest, and I would recite the vow that I would use for that battle, making them shake in tears and terror. Yes, that's definitely true. I used to do that. I used to freak people out. Then again, I was in, my late teens, early 20s, and I really didn't know much about life at that point to know that I probably freaked out quite a few people. If you were one of the people I knelt in front of and yelled my vow at, I am not sorry at all, you filthy Xenos and traitor scum. Okay? That was just one of the things I used to do when I used to play with my Black Templars a lot. But I'm really excited that they're getting, yes, they didn't get stuff in the codex, they might be cut out of the lore altogether, which would make me sad. However, Black Templars always hold a dear. The Black Templars get in this book as much as you would expect from a supplement, really. You don't get as much of the story, right? A supplement gives you like an entire thing. But in terms of rules, you're getting as much out of this as an entire supplement like White Scars, or less stratagems, right? But still pretty damn snazzy. So first and foremost, they have the Zealous Crusaders rules. Yeah, this is a really cool piece of artwork. I love that piece of artwork. It is a codex supplement, of course. They get the Knights of Sigismund rule, which, whilst the Assault Doctrine is active, when resolving an attack made with a Black Templar melee weapon against a unit that is not a vehicle. Now, this is any Black Templar unit, so even like a tank, a vehicle, a dreadnought, you name it. In a turn which it made a charge or heroically intervened, an unmodified hit roll of a 6 automatically scores a hit and wounds. Do not make a wound roll. It takes away the math. It is incredible how powerful that can be. And of course, in Assault Doctrine, they're all -1 AP with their chainswords and things like that. So Black Templars on turn 3, when they're charging into combat and really cutting you down, every hit they score that's a good hit can be really powerful. Combine that with the ability of a chapter master to re-roll hit rolls. You can fish for those 6s, because every 6 you roll is a roll that you don't have to roll to wound, and that changes the math and is very, very powerful. Not as powerful as Iron Hands, not as powerful as like White Scars. However, it has its own sense of fury. You just roll once and that's it, it's done. The damage goes through, and I feel like they're going to be quite hardy. Expect me to play a couple of games with these rules to really show them off. The first unit that we're going to look at is High Marshal Helbrecht. High Marshal Helbrecht, Marshal of the Black Templars. He has remained almost the same. He gained an additional attack with so he's 5 attacks base, combined with Angels of Death. He gets 6 attacks on the charge, combined with his Sword of the High Marshals. When he charges or heroically intervenes, he makes D3 additional attacks. So in the first round of that combat, he has an ability doing up to 9 close combat attacks with his Sword of the High Marshals, which is really strong. He does come equipped with Frag and Crack. He has a Combi Melter that can be shot as either or. A Sword of the High Marshals, which is +1 strength, -3 D3 damage. However, he does give +1 strength to all units, Black Templar units within 6 inches. It used to be models within 6, now it's units. +1 strength. That's really cool. Meaning that he's base strength 6, and most of the guys around him will be base strength 5, which makes even things like power swords and whatnot quite effective while Marshal Helbrecht is around. He does have the Chapter Master reroll, so reroll all misses in close combat. And he's only 150 points, so he retains his, he's pretty expensive, but with 6 wounds, a 2+ save, a 4+ invulnerable save, and the ability to be a force multiplier, I think you will be seeing him in most Black Templar forces. Another iconic element of any Black Templar army is the Mighty Emperor's Champion, which is pretty cool. 2 things to note, which I completely forgot to say. Black Templars cannot take Librarians, because they don't have a Librarius. And Chosen Champion, you cannot take the Chapter Champion Stratagem on a Black Templar unit. That doesn't stop you from taking a Chapter Champion from a different one, if you want to mix them. Anyway, needless to say, then you'd lose the cool Chapter Doctrine. So Emperor's Champion is about the same. He's 4 wounds, he's 5 attacks, so they added an attack to him as well. He has Ballistical 3, 2+ weapon skill. He's only toughness 4, 4 wounds, so he's like a minor character in that sense. He does have a 2-up save and a 4-up invulnerable save with his Armor of Faith. He has Frag and Crack Grenades, and he does have a Bolt Pistol. His Black Sword is +2 strength, so he's strength 6, strength 7 when Helbrecht is around, -3 AP, D3 damage. When resolving an attack against characters or monsters, you can reroll wound rolls. He also gets +1 strength and attack when he's within 1 inch of any enemy characters. So if he's within an inch of an enemy character, he becomes strength 7 base. Around Helbrecht, he becomes strength 8. He has 6 attacks if he's within 1 inch of an enemy character, 7 attacks if he charges as well. So he can do a lot of attacks. Like, these characters are going to be cut down quite a few models for the character himself. And he's relatively inexpensive at 75 points. He's only a little bit more than a lieutenant. And he has a lot of rules associated with him as well. And when he's attacking characters, he can reroll hit rolls. So if it's a character or a monster, he can reroll wounds. If he's attacking a character, he can reroll hits. So reroll misses, reroll wounds, good strength, decent number of attacks, decent damage with his Black Sword as well, which is pretty cool. And last but not least, we have Chaplain Grimaldus, of course, and his Xenobite Servitors. I'm a bit sad they changed Xenobite Servitors a little bit. They no longer do a big 12-inch Fearless bubble, which is a bit of a shame. But Chaplain Grimaldus got a huge overhaul as well. And he's not that expensive compared to another, say, chapter, where is he? Say to another chapter, Chaplain. He is 90 points. So he's the same cost as he was, or the same cost as the Chaplain, regular Chaplain with a jump pack. But let's see what he gets. First of all, he is a Master of Sanctity, so he gets 2 prayers plus his normal prayer, which is pretty cool. He is armed with a plasma pistol, Artificer armor, so he has, Artificer Crozier, sorry, Frag Crack Grenades. He has a 3-up save, he has 4 wounds, so he is a little bit weaker on the wound side. He does have a 4-up invulnerable save, he has Angels of Death, so he gets extra attacks. And he has a couple of rules. Spiritual Leader. Friendly Black Templar units can use his leadership within 6 inches. Cool, so he's leadership 9, makes them less likely to run away. He is a Devout Puritan. He can attempt to resist a psychic power, as he was, he can deny the witch. That's awesome. Like, giving Black Templars access to deny the witch is amazing on a Chaplain, which is really cool. And then, last but not least, he has the Unmatched Zeal. When resolving an attack made by a melee weapon by a unit within 6 inches, so any model in the unit within 6 inches, On an unmodified roll of a 6, you make 1 additional attack using the same weapons. But remember, an unmodified roll of a 6 on turn 3 onwards also counts as instant wound, which is awesome. So this guy just makes your little core of close combat guys very killy as well. He knows the Litany of Hate, which is the basic litany, and 2 litanies from either Litanies of Battle from Codex Space Marines or brand new Litanies of the Devout, which are Black Templar specific litanies. Personally, I really like the Litanies of Battle from the Space Marine book, but the Litanies of the Devout do give you some cool options as well. You can recite 2 litanies and roll on a 3+, essentially. So he can do 2 litanies per turn as well, which is pretty neat. Xenobite Servitors, pretty much the same, 6 points for unit of 3. They are mind wiped, so they get better when the Chaplain Grimaldus is nearby. They do not take slots now in a detachment that includes Chaplain Grimaldus, which means if you don't take Grimaldus, they take up a slot. If not, then you can use them as a cheap elite slot. And they have the Relics of Hell's Reach. When a unit is within 6 inches, if they would lose a wound as a mortal wound, they don't lose it on 4+. So normally Black Templars ignore mortals on 5+, but if these Xenobites are around, then it's on 4+. Can be pretty snazzy against some of those mortal wound totting armies of 1,000 Suns, for example. And that is the extent of the units other than the Crusader Squad. Iconic troop choice of the Black Templars. The only way you can really take 20 Space Marines in one giant unit and have the same amount of wounds as 10 Intercessors. Except some of them are scouts or neophytes, and some of the Marines or initiates, which is pretty cool. And the Sword Brother, instead of being their own unit, are now sergeants, essentially, for the Crusader Squads, keeping it simple. So the unit itself, the composition is really interesting. You have 1 Sword Brother and 4 Initiates as a basic unit. You can contain up to 5 additional Initiates, or you can contain up to 5 Neophytes, or up to 10 Neophytes. So no longer do you have to have a 1-to-1 aspect ratio Neophytes to Initiates. You could, if you wanted to, run 5 Initiates and 10 Neophytes. The point cost of the Crusader Squads went down, 13 points for an Initiate or Sword Brother, 11 points for a Neophyte, bringing them in line with the new Space Marine Tactical Marines, essentially. But something that is really cool about the Crusader Squad is its tactical flexibility. You can run it as a giant blob, or you can run it as like a dedicated shooting unit. However, they did mitigate the multiple small unit aspect here a little bit more than they did in the past. So you can't take like 2 special or 2 heavy weapons in the unit anymore with 5, which is a little sad like this. Any initiate can be equipped with a chainsword instead of their bolt gun. You have chainsword bolt pistols, which is cool. Any neophyte can have a shotgun or a combat knife, so you can run with combat knives or shotguns, depending on what you want. If this unit has fewer than 10 models, an initiate can have a Power Axe, Power Fist, Power Maul, Power Sword, a heavy weapon, or a special weapon. So you can actually just give like a Power Fist to a regular guy, or a Power Maul or a Power Sword to just a dude in the squad, which is okay. Not ideal since they have 1 attack, right? If it contains 10 or more models, 1 initiate can have a special... if this unit contains 10 or more, 1 initiate can have a special weapon, and 1 initiate can equip with Power Fist, Power Maul, or a heavy weapon. So you can have special weapon, heavy weapon in 10 models, or 1 special weapon or heavy weapon in less than 10 models. What's cool, though, is that you can, if you want, run 5 initiates and 5 neophytes, and that counts as 10 models, which is really cool. So being 10 models in total, then you can add the special and heavy weapons to the initiates, using the neophytes as cannon fodder. Don't tell the apothecarium that that's what we use our neophytes for. Yep. They have Angels of Death, and they have Paired Combatants, which is a new rule they've added to Crusader Squads. Whilst a unit contains at least as many initiates as neophytes, melee weapons, neophytes can reroll 1s to hit in close combat. Kind of cool, actually. It's like, usually you're going to have a captain or a chapter master near them, but it means that the neophytes hitting on 3s, rolling 1s, essentially to prove themselves, it means that the neophytes get reroll 1s if there's equal distribution of neophytes to initiates. Kind of like that's kind of cool. I don't mind that rule. And that is the Crusader Squad. It's pretty neat. You can make them small squads with guns, larger squads, or a big horde squad. You can't make them fearless anymore. However, you can make them higher leadership 9. But a neophyte is only leadership 6, which that's less than a normal scout, I'm sure. Then we have the Litanies of the Devout, brand new Chaplain Litanies for the Black Templars. You know, the Black Templars maintain an unwavering belief in the Emperor of Mankind's divinity. The Black Templars do think the Emperor of Mankind is a god. Therefore, they have really cool litanies. Litanies of protection, inspiring, so pick a Black Templars unit within 6. Give them a 5+ ignore wounds roll. Not just against mortal wounds. It's just on a 5+. They ignore wounds, which is pretty cool. You give it to a big 20-man blob, or Terminators, or Centurions, or whatever it is. Anytime they lose a wound, or a Land-Rated Crusader even, give it a 5+ feel no pain. That could be kind of cool. Psalm of the Remorseless Prosecution. When resolving an attack made by a melee weapon by a model in a unit within 6 inches of this model, reroll wound rolls of 1. Makes your Chaplain into a Lieutenant, which could be kind of snazzy. That's not bad. Means you don't have to spend the money or the points on lieutenants. You can just spend them on chaplains, and they have sort of they're more versatile lieutenants. Vow of Retribution. Subtract 2 from the leadership of models in enemy units within 6 inches of this model. Any leadership shenanigans can be really powerful at times. Most of the times it's very situational. Fires of the Devotion. Select a friendly Black Templar unit within 6. If that unit makes a charge or performs a heroic intervention, add 1 to attacks until the end of the turn. That's pretty cool. Means that you basically get +2 attacks when you heroic or charge, because of Angels of Death as well. Remember, Black Templars, on turn 3 onwards, any hit roll of a 6 is an automatic wound, which means more attacks equals more chances of rolling those 6s. However, the unit that you inspire has to be on the table when the litany is cast, which means you can't hop out of a transport and then cast it on someone. So that's a bit of something to keep in mind for order of operations. Fervent Acclamation. Add 3 inches to the range of Black Templar units' auras whilst they're within 6 inches of this model. So you could potentially have a chaplain stand behind or beside a chapter master or whatever, and then make his aura 3 inches bigger without having to use the stratagem. I know Ultramarines have a stratagem that increase the auras of like a chapter master or captain, but it's really cool to have a chaplain that's like nearby a captain, making him more inspiring. I like the imagery, and in-game it could be kind of powerful because Space Marines normally huddle together a lot, and it gives them an opportunity to sort of spread out like this. Oath of Glory. If this litany is inspiring, select 1 friendly Black Templars unit within 6 inches of this model. It always fights first in the fight phase. If enemy units has the same or as charged, you alternate choosing starting with the player's turn is taking place. So it can give a unit fight first in the combat phase. Could be kind of handy. I guess if you were it's the start of the battle round, right? That you roll to see what happens. Not on your turn, it's the battle round. So if you're gonna get charged by someone or across the line, you could make a unit go, I want them to fight first. So if you charge me with multiple things, you get to pick one thing to fight before they swing, which can be kind of handy, which can be very powerful in the right situation. Then we have the Warlord Traits, which, yes, Black Templars get their own set of 6 different Warlord Traits. Named characters get their own specific Warlord Trait. We'll kind of go through them in a second. But we have Oathkeeper. So Warlord can perform a heroic intervention within 6 inches and can move up to 6 instead of 3. That can be very powerful. Ask any Space Wolf player. People forget about that all the time. It can be very, very powerful. Epitome of Piety. Sorry, moved my camera. Yee, that didn't sound too good. Epitome of Piety. Warlord can attempt to resist a psychic power with a Deny the Witch test. And when a Deny the Witch test is taken, add 1 to the total. So you get an extra Deny the Witch with +1, which means you have Chaplain Grimaldus, which has a Deny the Witch, and you can take another guy with this Warlord trait that gives them a Deny the Witch. Now that is something that is really exciting to someone like me who can't take Librarians. Paragon of Fury. After the Warlord finishes a charge move, each unit within an inch takes a mortal wound on a 2+. Okay, kind of cool. Master of Arms, the Warlord always fights first, even if they did not charge. That's kind of cool, although can be a bit of a pain in the neck when you're trying to alternate stuff appropriately. Inspirational Fighter. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by units within 6, an unmodified roll of a 6 to wound improves armor penetration by 1. So that can be kind of cool. So especially when it gets stuck in close combat and it's the Assault Doctrine, all of a sudden you have AP2 if you roll a 6 to wound. That could be pretty handy, especially against other Space Marines. And Frontline Commander. Any Black Templar unit within 6 of this Warlord gets +1 to advance or charge. Nice. That's pretty neat. So, +1 to advance and charge for Frontline Commander, cool Epitome of Piety, etc., etc. So, named characters get this Warlord trait. High Marshal Helbrecht gets Frontline Commander, which means he gets to add +1 to advance and charge. He's like a mini Gulliman, which is pretty cool. Chaplain Grimaldus gets Epitome of Piety. Guess what? When he's the Warlord, he gets to deny 2 psychic powers, and when a Deny the Wish test is taken, he adds 1. So he adds +1 to both of those Deny the Power witch rolls. That's cool. And the Empress Champion is an Oathkeeper, so he gets to Heroically Intervene 6 inches, which is probably the least impressive of the 3 set Warlord traits. Then we have the stratagems, and then we have the Crusade relics, and then of course the point values and tactical objectives and a Black Templar name generators at the end here. So tactical objectives, you play Maelstrom, that can be kind of cool. Not really going to touch on them too much. The name generator, cool. They're very like Germanic tribe style. Cedric, Cedric and Henros and Hamlin and Avar, just cool names for like Germanic Teutonic knight style things. But the stratagems themselves and the relics really add a dimension to Black Templars that makes them stand out. And some of them are very, very powerful. Let's start with the stratagems. So if your army is battle-forged and includes a Black Templar detachment, you have access to the stratagems. The first is Abhor the Witch, a return of a classic. This uses stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase when an enemy psyker manifests a power within 24 of any Black Templar units. That could be a Rhino, could be any Black Templar unit. After any Deny the Witch attempts have been made, on a 4+, the psychic power is resisted. That's pretty cool. So you can Abhor the Witch, so you can try deny the psychic power, and then on a 4+, the power is resisted. You get lots of chances to stop that psychic power in its tracks. It's 1 command point. If the Iron Hand supplement FAQ is anything to be shown, they might FAQ this to 2 command points, because the one in Iron Hands did indeed. It's very, very powerful stratagem. The Emperor's Will, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in your movement phase when a Black Templar's unit advances. Until the end of the turn, models from the unit can still shoot with their pistols and can still charge. So 1 CP to advance and charge and can still shoot with their pistols. Remember, if Helbrecht is around, +1 to advance, +1 to charge. If the Chaplain has the litany of +2 to charge, that's +3 to charge. Oh my goodness. This is going to start getting pretty crazy. The 3 Crusade relics. Use stratagem before the battle. Select a Black Templar model that has a sergeant or sword brother in their profile. Can access to one of the chapter relics. So it has a Witch Seeker Bolt, Sword of the Judgment, or the Skull of Cacodominus, which is a cool little relic. All of the relics in your army must be different. So instead of getting special issue war gear, their sergeant can take chapter relics. That's kind of neat. 1 command point, Oaths of Honor. Use this stratagem in the fight phase. Select a Black Templar scout unit from your army that made a charge move or was charged. Until the end of the phase, when attacking with a model in that unit, you can reroll wound rolls. For 1 command point, you can have scouts reroll wound rolls because they really want to prove themselves. That's cool. You're going to take scouts if you're playing if you're playing just Space Marines in general, making them reroll wound rolls in combat. That's pretty cool. 1 CP, Devout Push. Use a stratagem at the start of the fight phase. select a Black Templar infantry unit or biker unit. Until the end of that phase, the unit can pile in and, when it consolidates, it can move 6 inches instead of 3. Combine that with the Chaplain oath of pile in 6, and then you could pile in 6 and consolidate 6 for 1 command point. So not only do you have 12 inches of movement after you charge, but that's pretty cool. But then combine it with something like this. Tenacious Assault. 2 command points. Use this stratagem in the movement phase when an enemy infantry unit that does not have the flyer battlefield rolled and is within 1 inch of any Black Templars infantry units is chosen to fall back. Roll a d6. On a 2+, that unit cannot fall back this turn. For 2 command points, you can hold people in close combat. And for a close combat army, that is extremely powerful. And it's any enemy infantry unit. So with your super pile-ins and consolidates, you can hope to tag someone all the way in a flank or something, or 12 inches behind the line, stop them from falling back on a 2+ for 2 command points, and then stop your entire unit from getting shot. Awesome. I love that. That's probably one of my favorite stratagems. And then you have Vicious Riposte. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a Black Templars infantry unit from your army is chosen as a target of an attack. Man, some of these stratagems are so wordy. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack against that unit, an unmodified save roll of 6, the attacking model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So that's pretty cool. You can basically bounce wounds back in close combat, which is awesome. You know, run them into something big and nasty with lots of attacks, roll lots of 6s for your saves, and all of a sudden, boop, get mortal wounds back. And it's just an unmodified 6 just instantly bounces a wound back to them in close combat for 1 command point. And for 1 more command point, like all of these are 1 command point except for Tenacious Assault. Crazy. Shock and Awe, which is the one that was previewed. Use a stratagem in your charge phase. Select a Black Templar infantry unit that disembarked from a land raider this turn. Until the end of that turn, enemy units cannot fire Overwatch at the selected unit, and, when resolving an attack made against that unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. What? This is crazy. Like, the Black Templar Land Raider Crusader army is totally back, baby. I love it. Love it. My Land Raider Crusader is going to see a lot of action with that. But that is ignore Overwatch and -1 to be hit in close combat for 1 command point. Like, if some of these don't get FAQ'd to be worth more, like, that sounds pretty crazy to me. The Chapter Crusade Relics, essentially. The holds of the Black Templar fleets are filled with prized relics and holy artifacts. Cool. The Crusader's Helm. Add 3 inches to the range of a model with this relic's aura to a maximum of 12. In addition, at the start of your movement phase, select a friendly Black Templars unit that has the Combat Doctrine's ability and is within 6 inches of this model. Until the start of your next movement phase, the Assault Doctrine becomes active for that unit, replacing the currently active Combat Doctrine. That's kind of cool. It means you can have at least 1 unit be an Assault Doctrine until you decide to go into Assault Doctrine, which can be very powerful considering Black Templars gain their bonus in the Assault Doctrine. And the extra range is not bad for a unit's auras. Witch Seeker Bolts. If that doesn't come with a name, you should turn this video off right now because you have no idea what Black Templars hunt. Witches. When the bearer shoots in its selected bolt weapon, when the bearer shoots with that weapon, you can choose for it to fire a Witch Seeker round. You can only make 1 attack with the weapon, but attack can target Psykers characters even if they're not the closest unit. When resolving an attack made by a Witch Seeker round, if a hit is scored on a Psyker, the target suffers D3 mortal wounds in addition to any other damage. Which means that if you put that on a Phobos captain with a cool sniper rifle already, not only is he doing damage with like a 2 or 3 damage rifle, but he also does D3 mortal wounds if he hits. That's cool. The Aurelian Shroud. Once per battle, at the start of the battle round, a model with this relic can unveil the shroud. Until the end of the battle round, models in friendly Black Templars units within 3 inches have a 4+ invulnerable save. Holy moly. So you can have a 4-up invulnerable save for a battle round, for a whole battle round, to anybody within 3 inches of this model. The way I look at this is you put that model in the middle of your 3 Land Raider Crusaders, and you give them a 4-up invulnerable save so they can't get shot, or repulsors, or whatever it is. So that first turn, they become nigh invincible. Awesome. Ancient Breviary. A chaplain model only. When a roll is made to determine if the litany recited is inspiring, roll 2 dice and discard one of the results. Essentially making them very good at reciting their litanies. The Skull of Cacodominus. Once per battle, after a psychic power has been manifested by an enemy psychic model within 12 of the model with this relic, on a 2+, that model suffers D3 mortal wounds after the power has been resolved. So it's kind of like a once per game mortal wounds on a psyker within 12. Okay, that's cool. Sword of Judgment. A power sword or mastercraft power sword only. It is a melee weapon with +1 strength, -3, 3 damage power sword. And can you give it? Yes, you can. You can give it to a sergeant. Amazing. What I'm thinking is putting it on a tactical Terminator sergeant with a power sword, running around with a thunder hammer. That'd be kind of cool. Never again would that Terminator die first. I like that. Other than that, point values, went over that. Crusader Squad, tactical objectives are kind of neat. And that is it for the Black Templar. So let me know what you think down below of the new Imperial stuff that we are getting in Psychic Awakening, Faith, and Fury. Let me know what your favorite combos have been of what we've talked about, and whether or not you will be jumping on to the zealous train that is the Black Templar crusading fleets. Don't forget to check out the Chaos side of Faith and Fury in the links down below if you haven't checked that out already. And I am Skari, your grateful host, sending a huge shout out to all the Patreons of the channel, thanks to whose generosity I get to do this for all of you out there. If you'd like to join the Denizen ranks, or the Zealous ranks in this case, check the links down below as well for all the merch and all that good stuff too. I am Skari, your grateful host, signing off until next time. Faith and zeal, my friends. Skari out. Bye.